everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I would like to talk to you about digital and provenance. Thank you, Karin, for kind of prepping the stage towards the digital age, so it will be a bit easier for me. So I would like to start with a video as well, a short video. Just pay attention to the gesticulations of the people that you will see, and also to the mouth part.
This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. It's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources.
New technologies, they bring a lot of new possibilities, but also new risks. This video was created by Jordan Peele as a warning what new technologies can bring to us. The video is a deepfake video. And deepfake videos are AI-generated videos that use real people but fake content. So how do we know what is fake and what is real online? This deepfake technology is used more and more today in the last couple of years. It's getting more and more advanced. It can really, for example, reduce the cost of the Hollywood movie production, something that was used to take 3 months or months of work and huge budgets, now can be done in a couple of days or even hours. And this comes to one simple question. How do we handle authenticity in the age of AI? Those deepfake technologies can also really harm somebody's reputation. It can also create fake news and also really influence our opinions in politics, religion, personal, and so on. So how do we handle authenticity in the age of artificial intelligence? What if we could have provenance of video and AI data in general? And here's provenance is the answer for authenticity in the artificial intelligence world. So what is provenance? I am coming from the art world, like Abdallah already said. I'm coming from the art world. I'm trained as a museum curator in the Louvre. I had a gallery in Vancouver and a gallery there, and then I came to Berlin and started a blockchain company. What is provenance? And provenance in the art world is the story, the history of an object, of a data, of artwork from its inception, when it was created, from the point of creation, to the very last owner. This story about where the product or the project or the data traveled through the time. In the art world, provenance is extremely important for several reasons. Authenticity, knowing who the author is, who created that work. Chain of ownership, this clear, transparent story about the journey of the artifact, and therefore its valuation. More transparent we are in the art world about the author and the chain of ownership, the value goes up. So value is provenance, and provenance is value. So let me show you a couple examples of provenance in other verticals, where the value can be as high as the safety of our lives. So for example, starting with the physical a bit, in 1993 in UK, the mad cow disease erupted. It killed 177 people. Nobody knew where it came from, which farm, which cow. So every single cow in UK was put down, 4.4 million cows. What if we had the provenance and the traceability of our food from the farm to the store? Another example in different industry, pharma. So the drug supply chain. According to the researchers, 60% of drugs online are counterfeit, fake. And according to the World Health Organization, every one medication in 10 sold in Africa is substandard or fake. So what if we had this provenance and traceability into supply chain of the drugs that could really save lives? Another, in aviation, another vertical. A plane in the North Sea was crashed because its fin tail literally fell off. And after long research, it was discovered that the parts around it were counterfeit, were fake. And a very similar story happened also in US in Chicago, where the engine that was screwed to the wing of the plane with the screws went loose, and because they were also fake. So what if we had traceability and provenance into the parts that are used in our transportation that can really save lives? So going more and more into the digital realm, automotive. Self-driving cars is something that is not that far away, but in order to have self-driving cars, there is needed a huge amount of data to train the AIs. And that data needs to be relevant, and it needs to be well labeled. And data poisoning is a very real threat right now that researchers are investigating. And what it means is that the training data says that it's okay to run the red light. And if that happens, it can cost somebody's life. So having traceability and having provenance of training data can really save lives in the future. So now we're going into this other vertical digital art, and this is something that I'm coming from with my background. So I run a gallery in Canada, and when I talk to a lot of artists, contemporary artists, they use more and more digital tools to create their works. And they really want to spread their work a lot, as much as possible on the internet. At the same time, they have no idea how to monetize it. So when I talk to the collectors, and I ask them why wouldn't they collect digitally based works, they would tell me we just don't know what we're collecting. One of the collectors, for example, had a video work on a CD, and then the CD stopped playing, and at the end, he just ended up with a very expensive piece of plastic. Another collector spent tons of money, more money, on restoring a VHS tape that, after 20 years, just disintegrates. And this is because this question of ownership digital is still kind of unresolved. It's like this big elephant in the room. And why it is so hard to own digital works? Because digital is a file. It's information. And it can be shared instantly and copied without any loss of quality. And that brings us to major problems in attribution, chain of provenance, and therefore valuation. We place very, very little value into digital. And this is just how the web works. In best case scenario, we have a file and we have a clear attribution, information, and the metadata embedded in the file. Most of the time, its attribution is unknown. We have no idea where the content is coming from. Or worse yet, misattribution, or somebody else is passing other people's content as their own. And this is just how the web works. We put something on it, it's just one big hole, and we have no control over it. And DRM options, digital rights management options, like watermarking or encryption, doesn't really work because there are other tools that can scrape them off, and those who really want to steal somebody's content, they will find a way. So we started to ask ourselves those questions: how do you really own in this digital world? Or how do you can trace the provenance of a title in the digital? Or, and also, like, how do you collect digitally based works? And in 2013, it led us to ask this question. What if we could own digital art the way we own Bitcoin? So maybe I'll ask how many of you know what Bitcoin is? Yay. How many of you own Bitcoin? Okay, but at least you know. So Bitcoin is considered to be digital gold. It's digital currency. So in order to empower the creators of digital content, it came down to two questions: provenance of title and provenance of copies. How do we get provenance of title, and how can we have provenance of copies? So we started with this project, Ascribe, in 2014, and we saw that blockchain technology can really, really help here with the provenance of title. Everyone knows what blockchain is. How many of you know what blockchain is? How many of you don't know what blockchain is? Okay, so just very shortly what blockchain is. So imagine it's big register somewhere in the sky that not one entity controls it, not one entity owns it. It has multiple copies around the world, and you can only write into it, and you can never delete from it. A very powerful tool, especially in the very opaque art world, where registers get forged all the time. So going back to the provenance of title, so Ascribe enabled creators using blockchain technology in order to do two things. First, immutable attribution, timestamping your claim of authorship into the blockchain technology, and therefore securing the provenance of the title. And second is licensing. So very simple baked-in contracts that literally the usage rights transfer by email. So I'll give you an example. This is a work from my personal collection of Berlin-based Dutch artist Harm van der Dorpel. So he created this screensaver called Event Listeners using AI-generated images, composing it together with his poetry. So he could have put it on a DVD or CD, or sell it as a bundle on a computer. Instead, he registered 100 unique editions on the blockchain. So when you register your work onto the blockchain, a unique ID is created, cryptographic ID. And this cryptographic ID is unbreakable link between the author, the creator, and its work. Then one can create unique digital editions. So here you see that I own edition 24 of 100, and each edition has also its identification ID that is different, but also all linked to the original work. And then you can also have a very clean provenance history. So you can see here that Harm registered his work on April 17, and then he sold it to me on April 20. And you will have this history with each subsequent sale. In the art world, also, certificates of authenticity is a big thing and issue as well. So this cryptographic certificate of authenticity is basically a bridge between digital and physical world. And it has this history of ownership. So as an example, MAC Vienna, a museum of applied art, a 150-year-old institution in Vienna, bought several digital editions of Event Listeners by using Bitcoin, time-stamped on the blockchain, and then after it became part of their exhibition, the 24/7, The Human Condition in 2015. So now, provenance of copies. How do we know where my work is? So So when I also talk to some artists, yes, they want to spread the work as much as possible online. It's part of their work. It could be part of their practice. Some artists also base the value based on how many people viewed their work online, on YouTube, for example. So what is provenance of copies? It's this visibility, traceability of, on the internet, how your work is used. And how to get this provenance of copies? So what we did, we actually had to crawl the web and index the images, and then ML image search across those indexed images, and then analytics to display the results. So as an example, here's a portrait of a young lady by Roger van der Weyden in the Staatlich Museum in Berlin. So where is the lady? So apparently it appeared over 300 websites and was in the over 1,200 unique pages. And if we look the spread across the time with the URLs, we can see the spike around 2014. And this is when the image got into the public domain, so the usage really spiked. And then we can zoom in and see that in, for example, distribution on the website, that it occurred over 150 times in the WikiArt website. So combining the blockchain technology and AI technology, we can get provenance of digital. Provenance of title by using blockchain, and provenance of copies by using big data and machine learning. So going back to our original question of how do we handle authenticity in the age of artificial intelligence? And we saw that artificial intelligence can help us with provenance of copies. But as the technology matures, it needs the provenance itself. So you do need provenance on the blockchain, provenance of AI data, and provenance of AI training. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Masha. Q&As, volunteers. A question.
Yes.
From me.
Okay.
Is Bitcoin kind of also similar to BitTorrents as a concept? Because not everyone, like someone owns a part of something as a collective, you download, and then you have a copy of that.
So Bitcoin is an application on top of blockchain technology.
Yeah, blockchain.
So I'm not an expert in technology. I'm not a technical person. That's probably a question for someone maybe here technical. There are some concepts that are similar in terms of distribution, because BitTorrent is something that it's also distributed across and kind of decentralized. And there is some concepts there that are maybe similar. But blockchain is decentralized system, right? Network. So maybe there. But probably. If you want to know more deep, it's probably better to ask some.
We have another polling question for your consideration, please, while we take another question over here.
Hi.
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 Okay, so this is very interesting for me personally, so thank you for the talk. I have two quick questions. The first one is when you showed us that you bought a digital piece of art, there were a number of edits. And so my question is, do you see are edits similar to copies, and how can normal people interested in digital art make the difference or see the difference? Because then you spoke about provenance of copies. And then my second question is, do you see physical art adopting this as a way to spread awareness or to get pieces of art purchased? And how would they do that?
Okay, I'll start one by one and then you'll remind me the second question. So the first question was that digital editions, they're also copies, right? Yes, they are. And in the physical world, when we have editioned work, they're also copies, but each of them is a work by itself. Just because, like I said, the digital file is that its nature, so you have really identical copies. So the way to kind of differentiate them, this is where you can use blockchain technology in order that each copy of those have a specific ID, cryptographic ID, unique to that specific copy. So at the same time, if that's the artist still wants to spread the work on the internet, he still can. He or she still can. But there will be only those, let's say, 5 copies or 100 copies, doesn't matter how many you define, that have a secondary market for resale that you can prove, right? And the second question you were asking about...
Like physical art being adopting.
So we had, actually, like we had several examples. Like when we started Ascribe, it was based on for digital art. We saw people who used it was designers, 3D printing, e-publishing, books. We had also physical works. So you just create this digital twin of the physical work, and then you kind of like registered the metadata that this image represents a physical work that only exists in one edition.
Question? Over here.
Thank you for your presentation. Hi. I have just one question about the registration of authenticity. In how does it relate to like different countries? Because each country have their own system of copywriting and all that, and like from what I understood, that even your actual, for example, object has to be needs patent in each country for it to be actually registered fully and not subject to any copy. So how does that work with the digital world, especially that now the digital law is new to countries in general, and like there are still a lot of things to be registered in that law. So how would this kind of system of registration apply to each country? Thank you.
Yeah, so definitely there is like over 160 countries with different copyright laws. So blockchain technology is not a copyright registration, but it can be used as a proof that you created something at a certain point of time, right? So for you, if you have a dispute and you need to go to the court of law and you need to provide a proof that you created something at a certain point of time, normally, like some countries you need to kind of put this work on an envelope and send it kind of to yourself that it's timestamped by the post office, right? So here you have another tool.
Last question from me.
Okay.
How does that then reflect to social media? So there was this controversy with Instagram when an artist printed out social media posts, Instagram posts from other people and exhibited them as art. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing in their terms and conditions that says he broke the law. So how would that reflect into? So
one thing you need to remember, blockchain is not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all our human problems. Right?
Damn it.
So no, it's not. Whenever there is humans involved, there is a human aspect that we complicate things. This is just a technology that provides you timestamps. In the art world, that those timestamps are also very important, right? So it's not going to create, like, to tell us who the real original creator is, because if somebody registers a fake work as their own, it's on the registry. But if, and then a proof that he kind of like committed fraud, and you will have that proof on the blockchain. right? So yeah, so this is kind of like, you need to remember that blockchain technology, it's not a truth machine.
Okay, perfect. I think after this we all need an espresso, some coffee. There is half an hour break, and after that we come back with Lina Al-Ulemi to know how we can bring that nature back into our digital presence. See you back in half an hour. Thank you.